Lessons from Genghis Khan, Birth of an Empire by Khan Golden. Lessons from Genghis Khan, Temujin, however you want to pronounce it. Welcome in, much love, Trav here. This book changed my life, really. I just read it the past 4 days. Made me think so much. Really wanted to share. If you enjoy this, let me know and I'll do more book reviews and share more adventures and stuff like that. Also, a video coming on reading fiction versus nonfiction. This is historical fiction. There's events in this that are true, and then they're embellished in a way that makes for a compelling story. But the story of Genghis Khan is absolutely ridiculous. His youth. This is about his youth in particular. And some of you are like, well, he's a bad person. He killed and raped a lot. Well, sure, that's true, but he's also very influential. And if you want to understand the way the world is, if you want an adventure novel, you want, it's whatever. There's pros and cons to everything. Not everybody's all good or all bad. And if you understand where he came from and the time that he came from, then it's whatever. Personally, there's just no reason to be mad this early at this stage. Although I know some people are, and it had to be said. Me personally, I find the great conquerors, their stories to be incredibly interesting. Alexander, Genghis, and others. So that out of the way, let's talk about it. I've got my notes here, but the number one thing to take away from this is the importance of having a tribe, or of having a group. So Temujin, born Temujin, meaning Iron Man, the wolves, in Mongolia, meaning iron, in Mongolia. So Mongolia is far north, really long winters, gets to -20 in the winters. People live, for the most part, in tribes, semi-nomadic that move when the hunting isn't good, or if there's enemies in the area and they have to move. And these tribes are a couple hundred people to 1,000 people. They're not super big. They have a social structure where they're led by one strong male figure, a Khan, and they have there's threats of attackers at all times, so they keep their bondsmen, their warriors, on watch. And the marriage and stuff like that, some of it is through conquest, but it's mostly arranged through gifts and stuff like that. It's an interesting way of life. So Temujin and his 3 brothers and half-brother and sister are sons of Yasuge. Yasuge is the Khan of the wolves. And when Temujin is about 14 and his oldest brother Bektur is 16, his father dies. And if it was a couple years later, Bektur or Temujin would have been Khan, but they were basically not strong enough at this point, and the strongest warrior claimed Khanship and moved the tribe and kicked the kids and the woman out into the wild. So 14 years old, the 6 kids, 1 mom, out in the fucking Mongolian wilderness, -20 degrees in the winter. They have no homes, gears, they have no tools really, so they have to figure this shit out, which they do, and that's incredible. Incredible story of hardship, right? Like, you're 14 years old, you're thrown out like that. Holy shit, right? That's an incredible story. Part of the story, though, is Bektur, the oldest brother, is they find he's stealing food, or not, taking more than his share of food, and risking everyone's life. They feel like they're risking everyone's life. So Temujin and one of the older brothers kills Bektur with a bow. It's the first person he kills. So it's not an easy start, right? Really fucking hard. But when you're starving in the wilderness, what are you gonna do? So back to tribes. Most people are protected in these tribes somewhat. Even if you're not the Khan, you're under the protection, right? A lot of people don't want to be the Khan because it puts a fat target on your head, and there's some other issues that we'll discuss. But Temujin is now a tribalist wanderer, and the people without tribes have the least support. They have to trade, but they could be raided at any time. They've got no protection. They have small numbers. They're at huge risk. Very weak. And Temujin's mom says that you take an arrow and you can snap it, but a bunch of arrows you cannot break. you take 20 arrows, you can snap them one by one, but you have a quiver of 20 arrows, you're not going to break it. That's having a tribe. So Temujin begins uniting, or he begins basically recruiting and absorbing the wanderers on the steppes, because he's not alone, being a cast out. Wanderers on the steppes into a new tribe, and starts to build his tribe through that way. So I mean, that's something to think about as the modern world. Many of us lack tribes, even in the cities, surrounded by individuals. Maybe we have family and friends, but we don't have, we're not wrapped in the bosom of a tribe. And I really felt that reading this book is like, well, like, I don't miss the harsh winters, and I don't miss the random death and killing and people riding up and fucking killing you. Taking your women, or if you're a woman, getting raped and just conquered. Definitely don't miss that, but that wasn't necessarily the most common. For most people, you just live in your tribe and you serve your role. You take care of the sheep, or you do your watch, or I missed that, you know. I haven't had it in my life, but I could feel this longing in me, like I miss that. So I'm thinking how I can build my tribe and unite, etc. through that. And you know, I have my local community, which I can do. I have the magic tournaments that I travel to, and I have the retreats that I'm working on. So to me, it's like, all right, I'm on the right track. So let me go to my notes here as we continue on. Fiction versus non-fiction. Notes. Tribes. Okay. Let's talk about, yeah, I'll just go somewhat in and out of order. Okay, risk everything to win everything. So at this point, he's built this small tribe up, and he does a couple maneuvers where he risks everything to win everything. Basically double up. In poker, when you put all your chips in, two people put all their chips in, and one comes out way stronger. This is what he does to take conship, leadership of some of the bigger tribes. He basically goes into them, challenges the leader, life or death, winner take all. And he does this a couple times and doubles up and comes up unbelievably, right? Suddenly he's united 3 tribes. He's got a 1,000-person army. When a couple years before, he was just wandering the steppe by, you know, with his brothers and his mother. It's like, this is, he easily could have said, hey, it's too risky, I'm not going to do it, but he wouldn't have changed the world in the way that he did. And he did a lot of positives, which we'll talk about in another video, his legacy, really uniting, risking everything. So how else did he bring people together? So bonds of war, this is something he said, is that there's no stronger bond than men risking their lives together. And I feel this to be somewhat true. When you go through a near-death experience with someone, especially in the service of others, yeah, wow, like that is stronger than blood. So when he recruited new people into his larger tribe, he would mix them up so they would be with new people, and they all go into battle and risk their lives together. And after that, he knows he can trust them because they have this bond of war between them. So that's something as well, as I can think back to people who I have a close bond with, gone through near-death experiences or risked life doing extreme sports and something like that. I find that to be real. All right, here's another way that he built his tribe up, is through personal debt. So the tribes are not totally savage. You know, they have rules, they have basic rights, and they have practices. And one of them is how they deal with debts, personal debts. So I'm not talking about money here, but if someone wrongs you, then you owe them a debt, and you have to wrong them back. And that's why the tribes are at war for so long, because they are just repaying debts. You killed my grandfather, I'm going to kill your niece, or your nephew. You killed my, etc. So just debts passing back and forth. So he used this to pay back debts of other people. Like, we're one people, we're Mongols. We have to repay the debt of the Tartars, who have wronged us. Now we have to repay the debt of the Qin, the Chinese, and wrong them, right? Also, the other way around is debts of gratitude. So if someone saves your life, you are indebted to them and have to serve them or owe them to try to save their life. So what he would do is, to grow his army, is as he conquered tribes, he wouldn't kill all of the men. He would spare the life of some, and those lives are now, they owe him a debt because he could have killed them. So they serve him, and he then mixes them in, they fight together, and then they begin to trust each other. So he actually conquers people and then keeps the best warriors to add to his ranks, so his ranks swell and continues to grow and just snowball from there. So part of that is revenge, repaying debts, is anticipation. So they think about this shit for years, and also, yeah, I mean, anticipation is a big part of this, is looking forward to repaying debts, whether good or bad, looking forward to one day being Khan, achieving your destiny, fulfilling your prophecy. One day, there's barters made for wives that you have to wait years to collect on. Stuff like that. A few other things. Posturing is super important. So as a leader, you have to be a master of yourself, and part of that is being a master of your own body, and even more important is master of your own emotions. So if you show fear, you will be fucking eaten by the wolves. You have to keep a cold face when you're feeling fear, when you're feeling anxiety, when you're feeling doubt, and appear to be as strong as you possibly can. And part of that is also, again, controlling your emotions. Genghis is said to be pretty fearless, or at least he presented himself as that way. And that was partially through mastering his emotions and his facial expressions, use of the cold face. Have a plan. So this is an obvious one, is like, he was extremely well prepared for the battles. They practiced, they trained, they drilled, they had their plan, their strategy, their counter plan, and he was better prepared for battle than everyone. He practiced swords, bows, horsemanship, social and leadership skills his entire life. It's not by chance and luck that he conquered so much. Basically, took some wounds, but people did not get him, so be well prepared. And then the last note I have here is asking questions, taking counsel. So Genghis kept a big council. He kept smart people around him. He let masters live and generally brought them to his circle, and is said to have asked a lot of questions. So that's a parallel that you always see, is the most successful people have a council, a mastermind, and they learn a lot from them and ask a lot of questions. So those are some of the key things that I've taken away from Genghis. So this is book 1, nonfiction, out of 4. I'm going to read the other ones, and I'm going to have a follow-up on this most likely. I heard the other books aren't as good. This is about his childhood, so it's going to be most interesting. I think the rest of it's just conquering and killing, but I am interested in learning more about his legacy and how he united and bound cultures together, because again, a lot of people see him as like, oh, he killed and raped so many, but he also brought a lot of peace. These people were killing and raping each other anyways, and he united them in certain ways and brought lines of trade between them and stabilized a lot of things as well. So overall, again, there's pros and cons to everything, and I find his story to be really, really entertaining, fascinating, and useful. I'm the Khan of my own life, and I want to know what it takes to be successful. And I learned a lot, I learned a lot about social structure, and through this, I'll come back with more, I think. Again, if you find this useful and interesting, if you like history and lessons from history, and if you like book reviews, then leave a comment down below and let me know what you think, and I'll do more. So peace out, much love, thank you. See you down below. Subscribe and share all this shit. Pya!